What is up, fellow readers, writers, and fans? I think this is working. Okay. Hey, everyone. It's Sam with another talk for you today. And I want to know, fellow readers, writers, and fans, what topics related to writing specifically that you want to hear more about. Full disclosure, I'm always looking for more topics since I'm doing these talks and have been for a while, and sometimes beginning to run out of ideas of my own. I had a guest interview scheduled for today originally, and that person had to postpone, which is fine. That happens. I'll talk with her next month. But then I had to kind of scramble last minute ish to find something to talk about for today. And I actually asked some of my friends on social media and got some input from them. So I do have a few more ideas for the next few times as well. But I can always use more suggestions. So if you're listening to these or listening to the podcast afterward or anything like that, if you're a fan, you want to hear more discussion about a certain topic or a certain aspect maybe of writing, fandom, tropes, that kind of thing, let me know. I'll see what I can do. Primarily related to fiction writing. That's what I'm going for here. But yeah, I'd love to talk about all kinds of stuff related to fiction writing because that's what I'm on the journey with you too. So today's topic, from a suggestion that I got from friends, actually a couple of friends suggested the same thing. I'm going to be talking about friendships in fiction, by which I mean not necessarily, you having friends with imaginary fictional characters, although that could be a thing that happens, or even your friendships with other writers, but friendships between your characters in fiction. And I'm talking about not romantic relationships because those get done a lot. And I mean, I would say we all know how to write those well. I'm sure there are some of us who are still learning, maybe, but romantic relationships get a lot of attention. But it seems like friendships and other types of relationships within fiction do not. I had two people, when I asked this on my Facebook status and asked my friends, like, what kind of topics in writing do you want to hear about? I had two people mention this, so I figured it would be a good topic to tackle first. One of my friends, shout out to Andrea, said she's not even a writer, but she's a reader slash watcher of shows slash just fan of media. She says, I know I get frustrated by a lot of fictional media that disregards other relationship dynamics in favor of romance. So that can happen. I mean, I hadn't necessarily always noticed it, but it does happen. There are times when I'm like, oh, those two characters are definitely falling in love, even if it didn't seem to make sense. It's like the author kind of forced them that way. Maybe not every time. It just seems that way sometimes. Then my friend Thomas, shout out to Thomas, who has been following some of the content for a while now. He said friendships and character building. I'd love to see more talk about platonic friendships and character building without using stereotypes. Men and women don't have to be love interests. So there you go. Yeah, friendships in fiction. We need to see more of it, apparently. There's at least a subculture, if not maybe a larger group of fans who think it's not done enough and needs to be talked about more. Yeah, so I honestly, I didn't spend a lot of time picking out the best fictional examples of friendships I could think of. I mean, a few classic ones come to mind. Obviously, Frodo and Sam, and if anyone tells you that that's a romantic relationship, I think we can. I'm not addressing that here. I don't think that was ever Tolkien's intention. Frodo and Sam, as far as we know in the text, are just really good friends who go on this life-changing journey together, and obviously become their friendship becomes more than just. I mean, I'd say they were close friends already, but they're not just like, hi, how you doing, friends. I mean, they're like lifelong companions because they've endured this thing together, and they're almost brothers, you could say. Brothers, but not literally, but I mean brothers by choice, but forged by bonds of hardship and things like that. That's a classic example. Of course, I'm writing contemporary stuff. I'm writing superheroes, and I, for better or for worse, I often am influenced more by contemporary stuff. So, Falcon and Winter Soldier was the best example I thought of. I guess you could also say Captain America and Bucky before Captain America disappeared. I mean, even go back to the first movie, seeing Steve and Bucky as friends was great. Then 10 years later, Steve's gone. Spoilers if you didn't see Avengers Endgame. Sam and Bucky are becoming friends, and I mean. I know, like they had met earlier in Civil War, but I feel like the miniseries Falcon and Winter Soldier on Disney Plus really fleshed out their friendship. I mean, obviously there were other issues to deal with too, but it was largely for their character development and things like that, and just brought them closer together. So that's a cool buddy romance to see. And then just, I mean, even, and I both examples I just said were male friendships. But people mentioned like, even men and women don't have to always be, um, don't have to always be, in relationships. They can be friends. I just thought of this, but on the Flash, if you watch the Flash and you watch Arrow and shows like that, they're really, and Smallville, I guess, was the first of its kind. There's always, they're very melodramatic. They're back and forth. They have a lot of back and forth relationships and such. Um, I was surprised, I mean, in the first few seasons when I was watching it, I was surprised that the writers never tried to ship Barry and Caitlin. Barry's the Flash. Caitlin is one of the main supporting characters who is a tech girl and helps him out and stuff like that. And Barry's main love interest has always been Iris. There were a few seasons where he and Iris were on the rocks, and he was dating someone else. That happens because it's back and forth, melodramatic. But even in those periods of absence, I was surprised, pleasantly surprised. They never tried to put Barry and Caitlin together. I was like, oh well. I mean, that's an obvious. Like if I was the writer, I would at least explore that for a few episodes. I mean, if it wasn't, I mean, maybe it wouldn't be permanent or anything, but I would at least be tempted to explore it and see if it could happen. But they never did that. I was like, hey, that's one relationship you didn't do, because not everything has to be a romantic relationship. That's good. And Caitlin had a fiance who died, so she had a tragic backstory. So she had like. She's had, I guess, other at least brief love interests throughout the show too. But I'm just like, hey, Barry and Caitlin were never shipped. That's okay. I'm okay with that, writers. And then this is maybe a different example, but say what you will about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, and it had a lot of problems. Yes, it did. But I enjoyed at least parts of it very well. And part of what I enjoyed is this in the third movie, like after, once we've seen 3 movies of character development, I felt like Finn, Poe, and Rey were actually acting like friends. Like in the first movie, we didn't really know them yet; they didn't really know each other yet, so we didn't like get much of that. We didn't know the characters well. But by the third movie, it's like we've traveled with these characters for a while. They're confident. They're confident enough to be making witty banter like on their missions and just acting like friends and working in cohesion. It almost felt like, I mean, I know it's not the same, but it felt like Han, Luke, and Leia in Episode 6 or something like that. When by the third movie they become friends. So I know Rise of Skywalker had problems, but I just enjoyed the team dynamic in it, I guess, and things like that, and how these 3 characters have become friends. And yes, I know earlier people were speculating about Finn and Rey, or Rey and Poe, or even Finn and Poe. People speculated that way, and none of those are canon. To my knowledge, none of those characters are ending up in a relationship. It's just 3 friends who have been through this action adventure, this life-changing adventure together, and that's how they'll be. Yeah, and that's how the dynamics will be from now on. So there have been some good examples where writers chose not to put them into fictional relationship or into romantic relationships specifically, and develop the friendships. I want to talk about my story too, and tell you some of my examples. And first, I'll give you a tip. And I mean, I don't think this is a deep writing craft tip or anything. I don't have like the 5 tips to writing better friendships. My main tip is just invent scenarios if you need to, or intentionally put your characters in scenarios where they can develop friendships and then see what happens. Specifically, non-romantic friendships. Last week I talked about the mentor figure and how to explore their background and develop them more. You might have to write a story from their backstory where they're the main character. I'd say put 2 or 3 maybe of your characters together in a scene who you want to become friends, who you want someone to develop, and give them downtime. I mean, if they're like making witty banter while fighting a bad guy or something, that happens too. That's fine. But like, give them a scenario where they can just hang out and be friends, and give them dialogue and see what happens, and use that to develop their characters. Even if it never makes it into your final draft. I mean, if it does, great. Sometimes we write scenes that are just for us, and they kind of help us develop the characters in our minds and develop those relationships in our minds. So that's my writing challenge to you today. Write a scene like that and just see where it goes and see if you can bring these characters together. Okay, so I have like 4 main characters here. I know there's 7 on the cover. 3 of them for various plot reasons that I won't go into right now because it'd be spoilers, and also because I'm trying to stay focused. 3 of these are more background characters, but my 4 main characters I've had to assign them are these 2, Miracle and Ruby. Then they do have a love interest. Those 2 end up as a couple. Spoilers. And then these two, Frostburn and Lady Light, they are a couple, or they've at least been a couple before. They have a rocky history, and they're kind of on and off again, but they've had a romantic history. So my four main characters, it is two couples, but I've had but they're also a team of superheroes. So I've tried to in my book two that I've drafted more recently, I really tried to spend some time developing them as friendships together, not just with their romantic partners, but with each other. I felt like book one was just kind of coming together for the first time, like the Avengers coming together for the first time. You know, we, we got the beginning of friendships in the first Avengers movie. I mean, yes, Hawkeye and Black Widow had been friends for a long time, and we got the beginning of Tony and Bruce being science bros, but some of those relationships weren't developed as much until later because they were just because they were just coming together for the first time, dealing with a crisis, and that was the beginning of those relationships. So in my book two, my sequel that I drafted a year or so ago, or a couple years ago, I tried to really intentionally develop the friendships between the group members who are not in romantic relationships. So I intentionally did a scene where it was guys and girls, where it was Miracle, so Robbie, or Miracle and Frostborn, or Robbie and Drake, are the names. They were going on patrol one night, and I intentionally did one or more scenes where it was Maria, aka Ruby, and Hope, aka Lady Light. So Maria and Hope going together, and yeah, I gave some plot reasons for it. Like, oh, it's practical for us to change it up this way this time, but mostly it was because I, as a writer, wanted to play with these dynamics and develop them as friends, and I did. I do think I developed the girls more, just for whatever reason. I'm trying to be realistic and trying to write these characters as if they were real, and I've said this before. Robbie, aka Miracle, is largely based on myself, or at least myself 10 years ago, so I know his personality a little bit. I feel like I can write that kind of character well, but I know that just from experience, guys don't always open up the first time, and Drake is a little more. He's kind of the hot shot character. I mean, he has developed as a person who he started to, but his kind of his default is he thinks he's too cool for school and too cool for everyone else, and he doesn't let the people in that easily. Maybe he wants to put up a tough exterior without letting people in. So I did have him and Robbie have a scene together where they were on a mission together, and they talked a little bit. I don't think they got super close in book two. I would like to develop that friendship even further in book three, which I hope to draft maybe next year. I'm not sure yet, but I did do some things where the girls got closer. I had Hope and Maria talking about their past and things like that. And the contrast works well, or at least I hope it does in my mind, because Hope is a very lighthearted character. Her name is Lady Light, whereas Maria, aka Ruby, is a dark character. Like, she's bitter and vengeful over her past. She's her father's a crime lord, and she kind of became a crime fighter against him because she's scarred from the past. So her thing is bitterness and rage. I mean, yes, she's also begun to heal, and being in a healthy romantic relationship has begun that process. But I was like, she needs friendships, and she also is used to keeping people at arm's length. So I had Hope, who's younger and idealistic and all that stuff, open up to her and be like, "I'm your friend now," and we need to hang out more and stuff like that. And I had Maria training her to fight, because Hope has powers, but she doesn't have like fighting skills, like just regular trained skills, whereas Maria has no powers. She has only fighting skills. So I'm like, she can train her to fight. I get them dialogue together. I had Maria confess her secret of her past to Hope. I gave them a fight scene together where they were fighting just some local thugs together, and I thought that was fun. All fun things to do as a writer, and hopefully for a reader too. But it lets you develop these characters more and their dynamics with each other more. And then later, I did a chapter of Downtime where they weren't even fighting a villain, and Hope was like, "We're going shopping because we need to be friends and be intentional about this." So they went to the mall and they went shopping and had a girls' date, and I wrote some scenes about that, and just hopefully that was also helped to develop their characters. So I did that. I mean, again, it was semi-intentional. I mean, I guess you can argue about how much is natural in the story versus how much you just kind of do it. How much your character take on a life of their own versus how much you force them. But I had, even when I was envisioning it, I had planned at least those couple of scenes of of Hope, of the girls and the guys together. So that's cool. So their friendships. I also started planning, or maybe I didn't plan it intentionally, but I did have kind of the opposite characters go together, or the ones who you wouldn't expect. Like, so Robbie and Hope, who didn't have much reason to be together before this, they've gone on a mission once or twice in the book, and then Drake and Maria went on a mission at least once. So that's, again, male-female relationships where they each already have another partner, or actually, again, Hope and Drake are on the rocks. So actually, Drake was single at the time, but still, I mean, they already have a potential love interest somewhere else. So it's not necessarily. So I mean, I'm not shipping them. I'm just like, they're teammates, and I want all four of them to be, good teammates with each other. And so I want them all to have team cohesion and have scenes together and feel like they know each other and like each other. So Robbie and Hope are like I guess the lighter character. I mean, if you had to match them in some way, like I said, Hope is, her name is Lady Light. Robbie is Miracle. He's like the Spider-Man, kind of the idealistic underdog. So he's a hopeful character too. Whereas Drake and Maria are both, both struggle with anger. They both have a past, kind of. They're both a little on the edgier side. So in that way they go together. But yeah, I gave a couple scenes together of Robbie and Hope. Robbie asked Hope for relationship advice because he doesn't know what to do with girls, and they had a few missions together. They're actually training a new guy, or there was a minor spoilers, but I won't tell you any details. There was a new superhero who showed up, and they didn't know him well, so they were like, let's train him, or let's go on patrol with him and see what he can do. So then we can report back to the others. So I had this scene of Robbie, Hope, and a new guy together, just kind of, seeing what that would look like. I had Drake and Maria going on a mission together because they were both more suspicious of this new guy, and they kind of wanted to do some digging on him, and so they did that together, and kind of behind the other two's backs, which leads to more tension later. But anyway, my point is, as a writer, if you're creative, which you should be, I mean, you're here because you're a creative writer probably. If you're creative and just give yourself even half an excuse, or just write some scenarios, just find ways for your characters to interact with the person they don't always interact with, and to become friends. So I put my two male and two female characters together, and then I crisscrossed them with the male and female couples who are not couples, and wanted to develop them as friends. So invent reasons in your story for that to happen, I'd say. If you have an ensemble cast and you have two characters who maybe haven't interacted as much, invent a reason, again, either in your story or just maybe a side scene for your own collection that you may never show to anyone. Invent a reason for them to interact together and to become friends, or at least to begin to become friends, or have, obviously it depends on the personality dynamics of your individual characters, but I'd say just give them a reason to spend time together and like each other and grow in friendship, or whatever they call it, and see how that works. And find characters who haven't had that development before, and give them a chance for it to happen. You may be surprised what you see as a writer, what kind of connections you see come out, and if you're surprised and interested, hopefully your reader will also be surprised and interested, and it'll feel natural and all that stuff. So my tip today for developing friendships isn't hard. Again, I don't have like the 5 secret writing craft tips for this. My main tip is, as a writer, invent reasons, invent scenarios where characters who don't always go together have to go together, and then see what happens and see if they become friends, and try to develop them into friends that way. Hope that helps. Hope that helps some of your writers and some of your readers who may have been frustrated with a lack of good friendships in media and such. And hope you're having a great weekend and doing well on your projects, whatever they are. I will see you next time. Thanks for listening.